Good day, my name is Ms. Tlakula. I'm here to teach grade 10 life sciences. I'm from the College of Agriculture and Environmental Sciences under the Department of Life and Consumer Sciences at the Florida Science Campus, UNISA. The learning outcome for today's lesson is that at the end of this lesson, learners are expected to define biodiversity and explain its importance, discuss adaptation and variation, evaluate classification and taxonomy, identify levels of biodiversity, explain indigenous and endemic species. Let's start. Imagine a world with only one kind of insect, one kind of bird, one kind of animal, one kind of plant, one kind of human race, population. What could go wrong? Imagine a dull photo of a single bird on a bench. Can you imagine that? Just imagine that for a second. What do you think can go wrong? Okay, today we're going to learn about biodiversity. To simplify the meaning of biodiversity, I have divided it into two parts just so that you can remember. One thing you should remember is that bio means life and diversity means variety. So a combination of bio plus diversity, that is where we get biodiversity, meaning we get variety of living organisms on Earth. This includes plants, animals, fungi, insects, and bacteria, and human beings. So let us do a quick activity. So what I want you to do for me is I want you to name a plant or animal, including insects and bacteria, that begins with the letters of biodiversity. We will begin with the letter B. Please name an insect, a plant, an animal that start with the letter B. Please write your answer on the chat box. Thank you. Let us write an animal, a plant, an insect, a bacteria that begins with the letter I. Please write your answer on the chat box. Thank you. Write an animal, a plant, an insect, a bacteria that begins with the letter O. Write your answers on the chat box. Great. Write a plant, an animal, an insect, or a bacteria that begins with the letter D. Okay? You're doing great. Write a plant, an animal, an insect, bacteria that begins with the letter I. That is different from the letter I that we used earlier on. Right, you are doing great. Thank you. Also do the same for the letter V, the letter E, the letter R, the letter S, the letter I again. Don't repeat what you have already written above, the letter T, and the letter Y. Thank you. Can you see how many plants, animals, insects, and bacteria there is on the planet Earth that you can name? Some you forgot, but they are still there. So there is so much diversity of species of living organisms here on Earth. So that is what biodiversity is all about. So just to recap on what you have learned in grade 7 and 8 and 9, just want to remind you about the characteristics of life before we go on with our lesson. So the characteristics of life, these are characters that defines what living organisms entails. So if we say something is alive, we mean it has cellular organization. What does that mean? That means all living things are made up of one or more cells, which are the basic units of life. The cells can be unicellular or complex. Number 2, all living things metabolize. They use energy. Living things obtain and use energy to carry out life processes. These include chemical reaction like photosynthesis, respiration, digestion, and synthesis of molecules. The third characteristic of life is homeostasis. This is to maintain a stable internal environment despite of the external changes. This will be like your body being able to regulate temperature. For an example, if it's too hot outside, your body remain constant and never be very hot to an extent that your organs can explode. Also to regulate the pH balance as well. So the fourth characteristic of life is growth and development. All living things increase in size, meaning they grow, and undergo changes over time, meaning they develop. They follow a specific instructional code in a DNA. All living things reproduce. This means that the new organisms of the same type of an organism is reproduced. This can be asexual, meaning from one parent, an identical offspring can come from there, or sexually, where two parents come together with two genetic variation and produce an offspring. The sixth characteristic of life is that it responds, all living organisms respond to stimuli, which means they have the ability to detect and respond to changes in the environment. An example would be plant bending towards light, animals moving away from danger. The seventh characteristic of life is that of adaptation and evolution. Population changes over generation through what we call natural selection. This leads to traits that help organisms survive in their environment. The last characteristic of life is that organization of complexity, meaning living things show a high degree of order and organization at molecular, cellular, and systemic levels. Did you get that? So we have 8 characteristics of life. Number 1 says cellular organization. Number 2, metabolism. Number 3, homeostasis. Number 4, growth and development. Number 5, reproduction. Number 6, response to stimuli. Number 7, adaptation and evolution. Number 8, organization and complexity. So, for biodiversity to survive, it depends on 2 factors, which we call them abiotic factors, which are non-living things, and biotic factors, which are living things. Abiotic factors, these are water, your air, the air that you breathe, soil, sunlight, and temperature. And then the biotic factors, these are producers such as plants, consumers such as animals like us, and also decomposers such as microorganisms and small insects. They need each other in order for biodiversity to survive on Earth. So just like an example would be, you need oxygen to breathe every day so that you can live, right? And you also need, the plants need sunlight to produce photosynthesis, like we learned last time. So there are 3 critical levels of biodiversity. The highest level is called biosphere. This is the broadest level, which includes all life on Earth and the environments where life exists. This integrates all ecosystems and biomes across the planets. And it also depends on interactions among the atmosphere, the hydrosphere, and the lithosphere. The second level of biodiversity is what we call biomes. These are large regions characterized by similar climate, soil, plants, and animals. Example would be your tropical rainforest, desert, tundra, savanna, temperate forests, and grasslands. Each biome includes many ecosystems with species adapted to those broader conditions. The smallest level is called an ecosystem. This is made up of a community of living organisms of biotic factors and abiotic factors. Example would be a coral reef, a pond, a forest, and a vegetable garden. Ecosystems vary in size and can be as small as a puddle or as vast as a desert. This is, I included what if you study biodiversity at university level, you can work as a botanist or as an ecologist or as a tourist, as a landscaper, as an environmentalist, or as a forensic botanist. There are many jobs that you can do if you study biodiversity at university level. And then within UNISA, we have degrees in biodiversity, which are degrees in zoology and botany, combined with microbiology or biotechnology and other modules that interact with biodiversity. This is just to encourage you. So there are, here is a class activity that I want us to do. The first question is, how many biomes are found in South Africa? Do you know? Please name them, write in the chat box. Great. The second question is, which biome covers most of the Western Cape? Do you know? Write in the chat box. Good. The third question is, which biome is most threatened in South Africa? Do you know? Please write in the chat box. Great. You are doing well. Let's find out. In South Africa, we have how many biomes? Let's read. It's 1, the Albany thicket biome, the desert biome, the forest, fynbos biome, the grassland biomes, the Indian Ocean coastal belt, the Nama Karoo biome, the savanna biome, and the succulent Karoo biome. How many are they? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we have 9 biomes in South Africa. Which biomes are mostly threatened? These are mostly the forest biomes. The green belts there, the dark green, that is where you find the biomes of South Africa. Closer to, we have one biome that is threatened, which is the forest biome, usually in KwaZulu-Natal forest. Is becoming threatened because of urbanization, industrialization, and also unsustainable harvesting of plants and deforestation. Thank you. Let's move on. So we also have what we call levels of biodiversity. We have only three types of levels of biodiversity. We have what we call genetical diversity. This is where genetical breeding and variations occur. We have what we call species diversity. This is where different species come of some sort, kind like animals, insects, people. This is what we talk about when we say species diversity. Even species of plants, there are different types of plants. They are vast from Cape Town to Messina. There are different types of plants, some of which we've never seen, some of which we are not familiar with. We also have what we call ecological diversity. These are diversity such as your fynbos biome that is found in the Western Cape, the wetlands, the savanna, the grasslands, and the deserts. So did you get that? We have only three levels of biodiversity. We have genetic diversity, species diversity, and ecological diversity. Question: why biodiversity matters? Why do you think biodiversity matters? Biodiversity matters because of the ecosystem services. We need clean air, clean water, and also fertile soil in order for us to plant, to survive, and to live. Biodiversity matters because of human well-being. From biodiversity, we get food, we get medicine, we get tourism, we go to the beaches, we enjoy ourselves, and we also get healing. So we need biodiversity. We also need biodiversity for economic benefits, such as the resources that we get from biodiversity, the earth, like the meat that we eat, the clothes, the materials that we use for construction, for building, so many things. So that's why biodiversity matters. Without biodiversity, as human beings, we are nothing. We will just die in one day. Just imagine if the entire globe, all biodiversity, including plants and animals, get wiped off by some catastrophe, and the only biodiversity that is left is human being. What do you think will happen? I think we can eat each other, drink each other. I can't imagine that myself. So a quick question: why is biodiversity important? As mentioned, for me, it's for beauty and tourism. I like it, It's beautiful out there. When you look at the ocean, how beautiful it is. When you go to the Kruger National Park, you see the 5 big animals in our country, the lions, the giraffe, the elephants. It's so beautiful. For health and survival, for a stable ecosystem. Why? What's your question? Is it A, is it B, is it C, or is it D? All of the above. Write your answer in the chat box. Oh, great. Yes, all of the above are very important for biodiversity. That's why we need biodiversity. So how organisms adapt to biodiversity? Organisms change to survive in their environment. These changes are called adaptations. Adaptations create variation. Did you hear that? Organisms adapt to survive. And this adaptation can create variation. That is why we have so many variation of species on Earth, of animals, of plants, and everything. So types of adaptation. We have what we call structural adaptation, which are physical features, e.g. like thick fur in animals that live in cold areas. We also have behavioral adaptation, such as what animals or people or insects or plants do, the actions they perform in order to survive. Like, for an example, animals migrate from one ecosystem to another. In order to survive. For an example, let's say in that ecosystem there is no water, maybe there's drought. Animals tend to move to areas where there is water. We have what we call physiological adaptation, where animals adapt internally. For an example, have you noticed, I don't know if you have seen, these days when you give rats rat eggs, they no longer die because they have adapted internally to survive the poison that rat eggs use to kill them. Even ourselves, we adapt to diseases such as flu. You know, our immune system is able to adapt so that flu does not have the capacity to kill us. Yes, you get sick, but it's no longer severe like it was in the beginning when they first discovered it. So animals, even plants, do adapt as well. So question and answer from what we have learned. I'll stop here. And ask any question, then I will answer. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Let's take a 2-minute break and stretch ourselves. A stretch before we can move on. Stretch your hands, stretch your back, throw your legs everywhere. Jump a little bit, laugh, smile. Thank you. Come back, let's sit back. Welcome back. So now the second part of our session, we're gonna learn about classification system. Since we understood what the importance of biodiversity, it is also important to learn about how biodiversity is classified. So classification is grouping living things based on similarities. This helps scientists communicate clearly. And also this helps us to understand different types of species and their importance and their value in the ecosystem or in the biomes or in the biodiversity order. So it starts from the species to the genus, the family, the order, the class, the phylum, and the kingdom. So why classification? Why do we have to classify organisms? This makes studying life easier. This help us to avoid confusion, and it shows relationships between one organism to the other. So we have what we call in science binomial nomenclature. This is a form of classification that scientists use. So this was developed by Carl Linnaeus. Have you heard of him? It's two-part named. It starts with a genus with a capital letter and a species with a lowercase letter. And it is always written in italics. So this is how it looks. You start from the species, the genus, the family, the order, the class, the phylum, and the kingdom. So this is how organisms are classified. So there are 5 kingdoms in the system of classification. We have what we call the kingdom Monera. Example will be the bacteria, kingdom Protista, the amoeba and the algae, the kingdom fungi, which are the mushrooms and the yeast, kingdom Plantae, which are the trees and the flowers and all the plants, kingdom Animalia, which are the animals and the insects. How many kingdoms? 5. Name them: Monera, Protista, fungi, Plantae, and Animalia. Can you give one example of a bacteria that you know of? One example of a Protista, an algae, a fungi, a Plantae, an animal. This is just your homework. So, class activity. Classify the following. What you see on the pictures. Classify where does it belong to: the bread mold, which kingdom? Which kingdom does a lion belong to? Which kingdom does a seaweed belong to? And which kingdom does bacteria belong to? Should I go back to the previous slide? We said we have 5 kingdoms. Here are your kingdoms: Monera, Protista, fungi, Plantae, Animalia. So classify where these organisms belong to: the bread mold, which kingdom, the lion, the seaweed, and the bacteria. Write in the chat box. Great. You got it. Excellent. Clap hands for yourself. So now let's talk about indigenous and versus endemic. Have you ever heard of the words indigenous and endemic? Indigenous means native to a region but can be found elsewhere. Endemic means found only in one place and in the world and cannot be found anywhere else. Example of an indigenous species would be an African elephant. It is indigenous and native to Africa, but they are found in other areas in the world. An endemic species will be like the Cape sugarbird. It is found only in the Cape and nowhere else in the world. Did you get that? So give me an example of an indigenous plant or an indigenous animal or insect that you know of. Also an endemic plant or animal that you know of. Write them in the chat box. Good. You know those things. So there are what we call biodiversity hotspots. These are areas that are rich in endemic species. In South Africa, we have 3 hotspots. We have the Cape Floristic region, the succulent Karoo, and the Maputaland, Pondoland, Albany. These are very important because this is where you find species that are endemic only in South Africa and nowhere else in the world. Like for an example, in the Cape Flora, that is why tourists like going there. You found the protea, which is called the national plant, which are not found anywhere else. And there are many other plants, beautiful flowers that are found in that area alone. Even in the succulent Karoo, you find some succulents that are not found anywhere else, but are found only in South Africa. So it's in the Maputaland, Pondoland, Albany. So these are very important to the South African biodiversity. This is what brings money into the ecotourism. This is what tourists come to view. Scientists come to research about this type of plants and why they are not growing anywhere else. So there are threats to biodiversity. You know about them, right? We have what we call habitat loss, meaning we're losing the entire forest or a desert altogether because of pollution, because of climate change, because of illegal wildlife trade, such as poaching and stuff like that. So we must be very careful as scientists, as life scientists, also to preserve our biodiversity. If we don't, the next generation will not have a land to live on. It will be dry, there won't be food, there won't be water, there won't be clean air. And we are getting there slowly because people don't care about biodiversity. So there is a SANBI online. If you go to SANBI, which is the South African Biodiversity Institution online, you find different types of plants specifically that are endemic, that are threatened, that are in a point of becoming extinct, that you can learn about, that you need to know about, and that you need also to know about their importance. So in your spare time, visit the SANBI website and study about the biodiversity of South Africa, and also some of the plants that you need to know about. And you can also go on the South African zoo online to learn about animals that are endemic to South Africa. Let us reflect. Why is it important for South Africa to protect its endemic species? Type your answer in the chat box. Yes, that's true. A quick recap. Biodiversity equals to variety of life. Remember, bio means life, diversity means variety. So together the two words are called biodiversity. Bio means life, diversity means variety. So biodiversity, variety of life. There are 3 levels of biodiversity. We have genetic level, the species level, and the ecological level. So why do we need to classify biodiversity? It helps us organize life and know the importance of life itself, and also know which species to preserve and which also to look after. Indigenous versus endemic, do you remember? Indigenous is their species to a native, but they can be found in other areas in the world. Endemic, these are species that cannot be found anywhere else but in a specific area. This is very important to know. So let us do a quiz. What is biodiversity? Name 3 levels of biodiversity. What is binomial nomenclature? Give 1 example of an endemic species. So I'm leaving you with this quiz. I want you to go and research, use the SANBI website, and also go to the South African Zoologic Zoo website. You will find these answers and even more. Further resources: the National Geographic Biodiversity, the BBC Bite Size, and also SANBI website. Please remember, these resources are very important if you want to learn about biodiversity. Thank you.